So the good supports are supracervical ligaments, uterosacral ligaments, while the poor supports are nothing but the peritoneal folds. There are actually, the peritoneal folds. There are two peritoneal folds, which are poor supports. That is nothing but the broad ligament. The broad ligament of uterus. This broad ligament is present on either of the sides, and it is a bilayered structure which overlaps certain structures. So this will be the broad ligament. It will be on either sides. And within this broad ligament, we have the structures such as the round ligament of the uterus. This is also one of the poor support. The round ligament of the uterus. The round ligament of the uterus, which is essentially one of the structure which is maintaining the anteversion angle of the uterus. So this is some of the basic structures. So let us discuss further about these, the other anatomical aspects like arterial supply, venous drainage, lymphatic supply, and what are the two? First of all, what are the two angles, the anteversion and anteflexion? Let us discuss. So all of us, we know that abdominal aorta, we have here abdominal aorta and the inferior vena cava. The inferior vena cava will be present towards the right side, abdominal aorta towards the left side. And from the abdominal aorta, we have a gonadal artery which is supplying the ovary, and the uterine artery which is supplying the uterus. So here I would like to say something about this uterine artery. The abdominal aorta, it bifurcates into the common iliac arteries. The common iliac arteries will be bifurcating into the external iliac arteries as well as the internal iliac arteries. So this internal iliac artery is further bifurcated into anterior division as well as the posterior division. The anterior division of internal iliac artery will be giving rise to this uterine artery. So while ovarian artery, it directly emerges as a gonadal artery. It's nothing but a gonadal artery in case of females, directly emerges from the abdominal aorta. So uterine artery arises from the anterior division of the internal iliac artery. So let us discuss about the venous drainage as well. We have a ovarian vein which drain on the right side, and we have a left side also. On the right side directly drains into the inferior vena cava, while on the left side it drains indirectly into the inferior vena cava. That is, first it drains into the left renal vein, and via left renal vein it drains into the inferior vena cava. That's about the ovarian vein. This thing will be ovarian. Here we have ovarian artery. This is ovarian vein. So this actually ovarian artery, the ovary is actually suspended. It's attached to something called as genital ridge, and it is enveloped by a fold of peritoneum called as mesoovarium. Certainly, there is something, a peritoneum fold, which is holding even the fallopian tube also. It is called as mesosalpinx. Salpinx means tube. In investigation, there is something called as hysterosalpingography. Salpinx means tube. What tube? The fallopian tube. Hystero means uterus. Salpinx means tube. So it is called as hysterosalpingography. It's something which is with the help of which a radiological investigation, with the help of which we can see the uterus as well as the fallopian tube. This is one of the first line investigations which will be done to inquiry about the infertility in case of the females. So this uterine artery, there is something called in ureter also. While discussing the gross anatomy of ureter, we studied that the ureter, relationships of the ureter. The ureter will be, it will be passing at the junction of the common, the abdominal aorta dividing into common iliac artery. Common iliac artery divides into the external and internal iliac artery. So this ureter will be passing more towards the external iliac artery. go towards the external iliac artery, and even that external iliac artery also we have something called as, there is a term which is often these obstetricians use to describe, called as water under the bridge. So water under the bridge. So what is this water under bridge? So water refers to the ureter and the bridge refers to the uterine artery. So in case of any surgery which involves the removal of this uterus, we call it as hysterectomy. So while doing this hysterectomy, we need to ligate the uterine artery for this hysterectomy, for removing the uterus. So this water under the water means the ureter will be lying exactly beneath the uterine artery. So what happens, accidentally, instead of ligating the uterine artery, the surgeons may often confuse it with the structure beneath it, that is ureter, and they will clamp that ureter, or they will ligate that ureter, which leads to the damage of the ureter, which leads to the extravasation of the urine, which is a very, it leads to peritonitis, diffuse peritonitis, and some other complications, post-operative complications. So water under the bridge, water means ureter, bridge means uterine artery. We have to be very careful about this particular relationship. What all I want to say is this uterine artery will be lying exactly above that of the ureter. So we have to, while performing the hysterectomy, we have to be a bit careful. And one more thing, if we see the course of the uterine artery, I said that uterine artery is nothing but it is a content of this broad ligament. Content of the broad ligament, and even the ovarian artery also content of the broad ligament. The ovarian artery will also give something called as salpingeal branches that will supply to the fallopian tube as well. And the uterine artery, it has a peculiar course inside the myometrium of the uterus. If we see uterus, it has outer serous layer, middle myometrial layer, and endometrial layer. This endometrial layer undergoes cyclical changes, which we will be studying inside the reproductive physiology. So what I want to say is the myometrium of the uterus, it consists of 3 layers. Myometrium. So the myometrium of uterus, it consists of 3 layers: outer longitudinal, middle circular, and even inner oblique. These 3 layers are generally present in structures like stomach: outer longitudinal, middle circular, inner oblique. And even in the ureter also we have outer longitudinal, middle circular, and inner longitudinal. Again, inner longitudinal, it's not the oblique. So, and the myometrium of uterus also consists of outer longitudinal, middle longitudinal, and outer longitudinal, middle circular, and inner oblique. So what happens means all these 3 muscle layers, they will form something like a mesh. They will form something like a mesh into which the uterine artery, the terminal branches of the uterine artery are called as spiral arteries. These spiral arteries will be inside the myometrium of this, inside this meshwork. Each and every spiral artery will be so minute that it will be present inside the meshwork of these 3 muscle layers of the myometrium. So very soon after the delivery, it's the most common cause of antenatal mortality is the postpartum hemorrhage. The most common cause is postpartum hemorrhage in India. The cause of this postpartum hemorrhage is leakage of the blood from these uterine artery branches called as spiral arteries. Usually that doesn't occur because as soon as the phase, very soon after the baby is delivered, there will be a phase called as purpurium, during which the bulky uterus will be reattaining its normal position, and during this position it starts, the 3 muscle layers will be starting constricting each other, thereby they will constrict all the spiral arterioles. Thus this particular thing is called as arbor. This arrangement inside the uterus is called as arbor vitae uteri. You have also heard the term called as arbor vitae inside the cerebellum. That is nothing but the ramification process of this, the external appearance of this cerebellum on the longitudinal section. That is arbor vitae cerebelli. This particular thing is arbor vitae uteri. So this thing, this process by which The spiral arterioles will be clamped inside the muscle layers of the myometrium, thereby preventing the postpartum hemorrhage and the mortality of the mother. This thing is called as leaving ligature of the uterus. This thing is called as leaving ligature of uterus. And one more thing, I'll tell you about the branching pattern of the uterine artery. First thing is there is a mnemonic to remember these things. There is a mnemonic called as URFs. URFs. This is the mnemonic for the branching pattern of the uterine artery. So this first thing will be uterine artery. Next thing will be arcuate artery. Next thing will be radial artery. Next thing will be the basal artery. This J has nothing to do. It's just to make the mnemonic appealing. The A was kept, or you can simply let the A can be removed. URFs. You can remember it like that. One thing is the basal artery, and the last thing is the spiral artery. The spiral artery is a very minute artery, and it will be enclosed inside the muscle layers of this meshwork called as arbor-uterine uteri, thereby preventing the postpartum hemorrhage. Well, in a condition called as uterine atony, where the uterine muscle will become so flaccid that these muscle layers, they fail to clamp these spiral arterioles, and that leads to severe bleeding very soon after the delivery, which may result even in the death of the mother, that is postpartum hemorrhage. So that at that condition, the leaving ligature of the uterus fails. At that condition, it leads to the postpartum hemorrhage. And we have discussed about the uterine artery and its branches. And similarly, we have the uterine veins, and the two supports of the uterus, excellent good and poor supports. And let us discuss about the angles. This must have to be, I should have taught it this much earlier only. The angles. There are two angles inside the uterus. One is anti-version, another one is anti-flexion. Anti-version and anti-flexion. We all have studied that uterus has a fundus, body, and a cervix, and we even have something called as the vagina. So, anti-version and anti-flexion. There is something called as the round ligament of the uterus. The round ligament of the uterus, it pulls the body of the uterus anteriorly, and there is something called as uterosacral ligaments posteriorly. The uterosacral ligaments posteriorly. This is something which pulls this uterus backwards, and thus there will be two angles formed. The angle between the vertical axis of this vagina and the vertical axis of the cervix. It will not be in a same perpendicular plane. Cervix and even the vagina. So the vertical angle formed between the body of the cervix and the angle formed between the midline of the body of the cervix and the vagina, this is called as anti-version, and the angle formed between the midline of the cervix and rest of the uterus, this is called as anti-flexion. This anti-flexion is maintained by the round ligament of uterus, and anti-version is maintained by the uterosacral ligaments. So why this anti-version is required? The anti-version and anti-flexion. What is the main use of this anti-version means? If the mother, if a female has got conceived, she'll bear the developing embryo inside the womb. So if the uterus, inside the uterus, the embryo develops, we all know that. But because if the embryo is directly subjected to the gravity, there is every possibility that the developing embryo, it may start shedding off. No? It will be subjected to the gravity, and that increases the tension inside the chorionic villi, and there is every possibility that the departure of this the implantation site, there will be departure of this developing embryo that may occur because of this gravity. It may occur at that stage, or even as the baby grow on increasing in size and weight, the gravity more and more increases, and it may leads to the premature separation of this the membranes. So that will be prevented by this anti-version and the anti-flexion, which is maintained respectively by the round ligament of the uterus and the uterosacral ligaments. So the anti-version is about 90 degrees and anti-flexion is about 120 degrees. Here there is a small controversy. No, anti-flexion, the text, anatomy text refer to this, usually anti-flexion in anatomy textbooks will be somewhere around 170 degrees. But the clinical subject like obstetrical books, we have this thing as the 120 degrees. So it's better we go with 120 degrees only. So that is how the stability of the uterus will be maintained. And coming to this poor, I mean poor, poor supports of the uterus, we have broad ligament, round ligament of the uterus. The good supports, the condensation of the, the endopelvic fascia, the pubocervical ligament, uterosacral ligament, and even we have something called as transverse cervical ligament. Very importantly, transverse cervical ligament. It is also the transverse cervical ligament. It is also called as McElroy's ligament. You know this, the pelvic fascia, which is giving rise to these good supports of the uterus. It forms something called as a hypogastric fascia. Hypogastric is nothing related to stomach. This hypogastric fascia is formed inside the pelvis only, which supports the other pelvic organs as well. So let me draw a diagram which emphasizes how these ligaments are arranged inside the pelvis or the pelvic cavity. Let us assume the anterior most structure is pubis, and here posterior most we have the sacrum and the ala of the sacrum, and here we have something, the urinary bladder, assuming it to be the transverse section at the pelvis level. This will be the urinary, this will be like this. The anterior border and two anterolateral surface. This will be the urinary bladder. This will be the posterior most part. This will be the rectum. And in the middle, we have something called as the uterus. Here, I would like to say something. In the uterus, we have something called as the cervix. The cervix will be usually circular in shape. In case of an nulliparous woman, a woman who hasn't become a pregnant yet, who hasn't conceived yet, the cervix will be circular in shape. Whereas in case of a multiparous woman, the cervix will be, it will be like a horizontal slit. So this thing I would like to say about. So here, let us draw some of the supports. Assuming this to be the cervix, this be urinary bladder, and this be the rectum. We have something called as the transverse cervical ligament. It is connecting the cervix to the lateral wall of the pelvis, and condensation of the endopelvic fascia. This transverse cervical ligament, it is also called as the McElroy's ligament. And we even have something called as the pubocervical ligament. The pubocervical ligament is responsible for the maintenance of the anti-flexion. And posteriorly, we have one more thing called as the uterosacral ligament. The uterosacral ligament or cervicosacral ligament. It is the posterior. So this is the transverse cervical ligament or McElroy's ligament. This is the pubocervical ligament on either side, and this will be the uterosacral ligaments or the sacro-uterine ligaments. So these are all the structures which will be stabilizing the good supports, which will be stabilizing the uterus. Good supports will be excellent supports will be the pelvic diaphragm as well as the perineal diaphragm and the perineal body. These things form the excellent support. The good support will be formed by the uterosacral ligament, pubocervical ligament, transverse cervical ligament, and even the poor supports will be nothing but the fold of peritoneum called as the broad ligament and the round ligament of the ovary. So this is about the gross anatomical aspects of this female genital system. That's all. Thank you very much.